I'd like to say a big thank you to our friends at aceshigh.com and militarygallery.com for allowing us to use this map. When visiting Normandy, it's good to know about the geography of the area and know the layout so that you can home in on the areas and what happened in those. The US First Army attacked on Utah Beach, here to the west, and Omaha Beach, also to the west. The British Second Army had its landing beaches at Gold, Juno and Sword Beach. Now interestingly, these beaches were named originally after fish. So we were talking goldfish, we were originally talking jellyfish and swordfish, but the Canadians that landed at Juno Beach didn't like the fact that their beaches were being named after fish, so they decided to call it Juno Beach. This map that we take with us to the tours to the Normandy beaches is probably one of the best maps, I believe, of the area and shows a lot of very crucial information. Shows us the areas here to the west, just north of Carentan, where the US First Army landed on Utah Beach, and the 82nd Airborne Division and the 101st Airborne Division landed here, just behind the beaches to protect their flanks to the west. The troops that landed on the beaches here at Utah were cut off in such by a very marshy area that's along this area here. So this road that runs along here is on quite high land, and then this area is all marshes. So they didn't want to be held on the beaches, so the airborne were dropped behind them to hold these main areas. Just behind St Mary-Église, we have here the two bridges, one at Chef de Pont, which is on the Merderet River, and the Douve River that run across here. We then also have the bridge at Le Fillers, which was just here on the Merderet River. The 101st Airborne landed just north here of Carentan, and they were to protect some of the roads and the exits that came off the beach across the marshed area up to this road to stop German reinforcements coming in from the west. The 2nd US Rangers came across here at Pointe du Hoc. Now, Pointe du Hoc was one of the most heavily bombed areas in Europe during the Second World War, and if you still go there today, it's a protected area and is absolutely covered in pockmarks with craters. And it's an amazing place to go and visit to show you the horrors of war. The line that we see here, which is the green line, was the intended area that the Allies wanted to reach by the end of D-Day. That never happened. These areas in yellow are the actual areas that they took by the end of D-Day, so that's by midnight on the 6th of June. So as you can see, they didn't complete their objectives. They planned to take Caen here on the first day. Well, Caen was still in German hands a month after the 6th of June. So only after that period that they took hold of this area. Operation Neptune was the seaborne part of Operation Overlord. Operation Neptune had lots of boats out at sea, the largest gathering of boats ever in an invasion force. These were held in an area which is just north of this map, and that's basically called Piccadilly Circus. The fleet, as it came down from the north, had minefields in front of it. These were cleared by minesweeper ships, which formed small corridors that the boats could then come down to and then fan out into these areas that you can see in front of you on the map. So Utah Beach was a fairly easy beach for the Allies to land on. It was nice and firm, and for months before the invasion, small parties of commandos had gone onto the beaches and taken samples of the sand to find out whether it was hard enough to support the weight of tanks and all the vehicles that would need to be landed on the beach. Most people know Normandy and the beaches that were used during the D-Day invasion on the 6th of June 1944. The beaches are Utah, Omaha, Gold Beach, Juno Beach and Sword Beach. But most people are not aware that there was actually a 6th landing beach just here to the east called Band Beach. Band Beach was designed to be used to take some batteries, just shown here on the map, and this was supposed to happen on D-Day +1, so on June the 7th. This, however, did not need to take place, as these were already held by our Allied troops, so the attack in this area was not needed, so it was cancelled, and Band Beaches faded into the history books. The British 6th Airborne Division landed just here at Pegasus Bridge. A lot of people say that this was the earliest landing by the Allied forces, but actually it wasn't. Actually, the American Pathfinders were landing over here about an hour earlier than the landing at Pegasus Bridge. Port-au-Bassin, shown just here, is where the Pluto pipeline came ashore, coming over from the Isle of Wight, and that was because there was not enough petrol and fuel that could be brought over by ship into the area, so a pipeline was needed, and that was laid into Port-au-Bassin very, very soon after D-Day. Omaha Beach was much more difficult for the landings of the Allied forces. It was very heavily defended and became known as Bloody Omaha. The cemetery that lays just above on the bluffs around here is a very solemn place to go and see. And we always go and see it on our tours, and people can't help but shed a tear. When the US Rangers came ashore here at Pointe du Hoc, they actually found that the guns there had been removed and moved further inland. The guns that were there were just tree trunks that had been laid up against the concrete to look like the barrels. So they found the guns about a mile inland, just off this road here, and they managed to take out the Germans and use thermite grenades to break the barrels of the guns. They then returned to Pointe du Hoc and held this area here until reinforced by divisions from Omaha Beach. It was thought that the guns here at Pointe du Hoc were very, very deadly on Utah Beach, but actually it was the guns here at Grand Camp Maisie that were actually firing onto Utah Beach and also onto Omaha Beach that were doing the damage. But this area here was only found a couple of days afterwards by the same Ranger battalion that was at Pointe du Hoc. The battery at Grand Camp Maisie is actually slightly underground, so it was very, very difficult to find, and they didn't know it was there. It was thought that the Utah Beach area and the area behind in Carentan and St. Mary Eglise was not very well defended. But just before D-Day, the Fallschirmjäger, which is the German paratroopers, were doing training in this area and were actually based in that area. So a lot of the paratroopers that landed in these areas and also the infantry were up against quite well-trained German troops. The idea was that the infantry that landed from the US First Army at Utah Beach here, once they held the beach and took out the defences of the beach, would move inland up these small exit roads here. This area is very heavily marshed around here and it's very low, so this area had been flooded. So if these roads were almost killing zones for the infantry that might have been coming off the beach. To counter-attack this, what they did is they landed airborne troops in these areas here to hold the area on the highland here just behind the marshed area, so that the infantry troops could easily move off the beach into an area that was safe. Therefore, the 101st Airborne landed just in this area here to stop any infantry coming up from Carentan up this road through St. Marie de Mont to the beaches, and the 82nd Airborne landed here at St. Mary Eglise area to hold off these main routes here into these exit routes here onto the beach. So this whole area could have been held quite easily by the paratroopers. Behind this area, it was also flooded. There were a lot of locks here at Bravons on the main route that comes in here onto the Douve River and also the Murderet River. So this whole area being flooded by the Germans. On the morning of the 6th of June, a lot of the paratroopers that landed into these areas were misdropped. Unfortunately, the planes that came from this direction became under heavy fire from anti-aircraft weapons that were based in this area and flew too quick and too low. Therefore, a lot of misdrops took place in this area. There were people that were dropped up to about 4 miles off their landing areas. There were even people dropped into the areas near Pointe du Hoc. So you can see in this area, out of these small landing zones that they had, which are marked with yellow areas, not many people actually landed in those areas, but they landed in this whole area here, if not further afield. The beaches were coming under fire from several batteries in the area, dotted around, and also from a field in this area here, next to a manor called Brécourt Manor. The 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment were tasked with taking out those guns, and that led to a very successful mission for the paratroopers, and they stopped a lot of the shelling on Utah Beach. So Utah Beach was a fairly easy beach for the infantry to land on because the paratroopers had taken out most of the defences in this area on mid-morning by D-Day. Again, in this area you can see the proposed line around here that was to be taken and secured by the end of D-Day, but in fact only these yellow areas had been secured by midnight on D-Day. The paratroopers would use their clickers during the night that we showed in our Footlocker video. They would use those to communicate at night time in the dark. 1 click would be responded by 2 clicks. Hi everyone, it's Mark from Discover D-Day here. Hope you enjoyed that geographical location video on all the sites from Operation Overlord in Normandy. If you do like the channel, please subscribe to it. Please do pass on any comments, and we hope to see you very soon with another video.